Are we ready to start?
Yes, you should be ready.
Hello and okay, thank you. Hello and welcome to the Finance and Claims Committee of the Norwalk Common Council for Thursday, October 13th, 2022, starting at 7:02 p.m. Present, we have members of the Finance Claims Committee, Councilmember David Hooverman.
Present.
Councilmember Diana Revelous.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Meeks.
Here.
Councilmember John Kites.
Here.
Councilmember Nora Najelski-Eichner.
Present.
Myself, Greg Burnett, present. So we have a quorum, so we will continue with the meeting. Public participation. We did not receive any emails from the public. Do we have anyone that has joined the meeting via virtually that wishes to speak? I see one attendee. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and we can add you as a panelist so that you may speak. Okay, I do not see anyone. Has any member of the Finance Committee received any emails which they wish to share at this time? Okay, hearing seeing none at this time, we'll close public participation and move on to item 4 in the agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting for September 8th, 2022. Do we have any corrections to those minutes? I know there were 2 minor corrections. They were spelling updates. Throughout the document, the spelling of Mickey Docimo, the correct spelling is D-O-C-I-M-O as opposed to D-O-C-I-M-A. So that should be made throughout the document, as well as the correct spelling of Joyce Liu's last name is L-I-U, not L-U-I. So if we can have those corrections made, that would be appreciated. Any other corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes with the necessary corrections?
So moved.
Thank you. Councilmember Nora Najelski-Eichner. All those in favor show by a sign of aye or raising your hand or verbal aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Thank you. That was Councilmember Diana Revelous for the extension. So the minutes are approved. Moving on to items 5, 6, and 7, which is the Claims Committee report for October 2022. The narrative for tax collections dated October 2022 and monthly tax collector report dated September 2022. Over to you, Lisa B., our tax collector.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll start with claims. The claims report this month is for informational purposes only. There are no claims in excess of $10,000, so I don't need a vote tonight. But I would be glad to entertain any questions if you had any about any of those particulars. If not, moving on to the narrative and the monthly report for September. We're a quarter of the way through our fiscal year with the conclusion of the month of September through September 30th. We were at 53.58% of the current collection levy, 50.64% of sewer use, and 74.23% for IPP. We're pretty much right where we need to be at the end of September. We're moving into the fall. As I had mentioned, in the prior month, we sent delinquent notices during the month of September. So we had a robust conclusion to the month with funds coming in due to that mailing. We are looking ahead to the month of November, which is a short month for us. but that's the month where we do our prep work for the second installment billing. And much will depend going forward on what goes on in the office of the assessor. We get all of our data from them, and what they will be working on will be the motor vehicle supplemental billing. They receive those files from the Department of Motor Vehicles from the state. Typically, a lot of the vehicles on that list will need to be priced and researched, and there's a procedure that they go through to ensure that there's not a duplicate billing for someone who might have already been billed for the same vehicle. They will work on that during the month of November. And then if all goes well, I will be running our billing files sometime around Thanksgiving with an idea to have the bills in the mail by the 10th of December. So we're looking ahead to that. We're also working on delinquent enforcement at this time of year. We're working with our state marshals. We also are going to be working with the health department at the first of the year to renew a health permit. In Norwalk, you need to have your taxes paid. So we will work with them. And believe it or not, it's time for tax sale again. In November, after this latest set of demands are concluded, we'll start working on the tax sale that will be held in July 17th of 2023. It's hard to believe, but it's that time again. I don't know if you have any questions about our enforcement or about any of the other information that I have in that narrative. I'll be glad to answer your questions. We are still short-staffed, but we're working on it. We're down 2 people, as we have been since the summer, but we're working with the HR department to fill those vacancies, hopefully before we get busy with foot traffic in the month of December. That is our goal.
Thank you, Lisa, for that update. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing and hearing none. I would like to take a moment, though, to read an official letter dated October 6, 2022, whereby Lisa was appointed to the Certified Municipal Tax Collector Committee. This is a very important and esteemed honor. This particular appointment begins December 1st, 2022, and is a 6-year appointment that runs to November 30th, 2028. So just wanted to take a moment to congratulate you, Lisa. Well deserved. We know you will provide outstanding advice and counsel to the committee, and we're proud that you're on our team here in Norwalk.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Congratulations, Lisa.
Thank you very much. That's the committee that does the training for the new tax collectors and recertification for existing certified collectors. And I'm on the committee now, filling a vacancy. So this is a full term. And in my past life, I was on the committee for 14 years. It's a volunteer position, and it's appointed by the Office of Policy Management in Hartford. Thank you.
Fantastic. That is great news. Okay, moving on. All of those reports were for information purposes only. So now we move on to item 8, which is to receive the Oak Hills Authority monthly financial statement for August of 2022. And we have the chairperson for the Oak Hills Authority, Joe Andresco. So Joe, over to you.
Yes, hello, thank you. Our report starts on page 27 of the document with our financial commentary. That's where I'll spend my time. So through August, I'll talk about through August. We also have preliminary September, but I'll just talk directionally about September. We're operationally, we're doing fairly well with respect to rounds and keeping up with our fleet of carts, and also dry weather, which has put some stress on the financials due to needing to use more irrigation, and that has a cost associated with it, just utilities cost with it. But it means that the course is open for a lot of rounds. So we're actually doing pretty well through August, and September was more the same. Then in terms of the financial highlights, NOI was 95 above budget for August. And we ended with almost 650 in cash, which would have been a high point if I didn't know that September was almost 690. So we kept accruing additional cash in September, which is kind of the plan. We continue to build our cash reserves through September, and then beginning in October, when rounds start to decrease, but a lot of fixed costs stay the same, we start to eat into that. So that will decrease, along with deployment of our capital budget. We do a lot of those capital projects in the wintertime because it needs to block access to certain parts of the course, which is just kind of inconvenient. So that cash will go down as planned, and then begin to build again in April when rounds start to begin again. We've made 30,000 in repayments for the first 2 months of the fiscal year. That was July and August. We made a $14,500 payment for September in early October, so we're up to about 45,000. I'd say major payment that we make, though, is triggered by the completion of our financial audit of the previous fiscal year, so FY22. That audit, all the field work has been completed, and I haven't read it yet, but I just got in my inbox the first draft of the audit, which will include the audited financials. So that it's well on its way, and that will trigger 1% of our gross golf revenue as a payment to the city. So that is a meaningful thing that we do to pay down our debt to the city. Otherwise, I mean, the overall bullet point is that golf rounds are pretty strong, and that kind of leads everything. That leads revenue, but we're structured so that when golf rounds are high, our revenue is higher than the incremental expense that it requires to keep up the course. So it's good news continued for the past many months. And early October is looking good as well. And then we go pretty lean, and I just hope that, March, April, May, people remember and they come back, and it's a strong start to the next season. Happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
I do have one question, Joe. When can this committee anticipate seeing the audit report?
It should be finalized, and our representation letter would be signed at this point in the next couple of weeks, so we can ship it along thereafter.
So we should have it for the November Finance Committee meeting.
Yes, right.
Okay, good. Thank you. Councilmember Hoofman.
Thank you, Chairman Burnett. This isn't really a financial question. It's more along the lines of what policies are in place when we're in a drought situation like we were throughout this summer and going into this fall. And I know it's odd to be talking about that with it pouring rain outside right now, but what do we do at Oak Hills to mitigate during a situation such as that?
Well, I'd say the most important thing that we're doing is investing in a contraption called a weather station, which is actually going to make our irrigation systems way more efficient with timing. So that's something that we haven't done. We have an old one, but we're investing into a new one, which is going to make us way more water efficient. A lot of our irrigation comes from on-site catch ponds, and they've been relatively effective, but we have had to supplement, which is what the added expense is consisting of, with a lot of purchased water. But our superintendent is very cognizant of the guidelines being issued And, he's had several visits from basically the people who run the reservoirs to come in and kind of diagnose what we're doing, what our operations are. And he's been, from what I've heard, on the right side of all of their guidelines this season. So, we're doing what we can. We're cutting where we can. We don't want to use so much water because it costs a lot of money. So we're self-interested in that regard, just from a financial standpoint, but our product is green. So we do need to water somewhat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Meeks.
Yeah, I had a question about that water usage. I know that you have the collection pond on the bottom of hole 5 and the tee box is 6. Like, as a percentage, how much of that gets pumped back into the course versus how much you have to draw out of First District to maintain the course?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can follow up with the super and get that back to you via email.
Yeah, no hurry on that. That would be good to know. And then just a comment. I played the course on Sunday. I don't get out that often. It was in the best shape I've seen the course in decades.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep up the good work. Really appreciate it.
I'm getting out for my one round this year on Saturday, hopefully. So I'll be able to enjoy it the way you did.
That's great. Any other comments or questions for Oak Hills? Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. We'll look forward to receiving the audit report and hopefully a few more months of outstanding number of rounds prepare us for the long week winter.
Right.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Moving on to item 9. And before I read item 9A, I would ask you to strike from the resolution in the first sentence the words "to purchase 3 new vehicles." That was entered in error and should be removed. So just wanted to alert you to that before I read the resolution, which reads as follows. Requesting a special capital appropriation in the amount of $195,000 to increase the appropriation to fund the Fire Station 5 roof replacement account noted. The $195,000 of bonds or notes of the city shall be issued in accordance with the provisions and terms set forth in the original bond resolutions that authorize the issuance of bonds or notes of the city for project number as noted, Fire Station 5 roof replacement. Do we have a motion on this item?
Motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Diana Revelous. And we have on the call with us Mark Conte, who is Assistant Fire Chief, to take us through and address any questions you might have. Thank you, Mark.
Good evening. So we're looking to replace the roof, and as we started researching it, the roof really had never had a full replacement since it was built in 1971. So we contracted an architect, and they're bringing the whole thing up to code. We're replacing skylights that are pretty much leaking and have plexiglass that there's mold growing in between the two of them. And also within that, we consulted S&EW about the idea of solar panels on the roof, and they're advising us now. We're researching it, and they said without a full roof replacement, don't even start thinking about it. So we moved forward, and now we went with the full replacement, which is also includes the minimum 30-year manufacturer's warranty, and this brings everything up to code. So that's how we went with it. Plus the price increase that we didn't expect. I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Councilmember Brian Meeks.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. So this isn't for 3 cars, it's for the roof, and that's that's the Meadow Street station number 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's Meadow Street.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Nora Dejowski-Eichner.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a note, and this is not in any way necessarily an objection to the project, but I would have appreciated if we could have gotten the materials that were given to planning and zoning for this item, because it was a bit sparse in terms of the materials we had. I appreciate Assistant Chief Conti's information about why, what's driving this number. But for future reference, that would be helpful.
Okay, I apologize for that. That must have been an oversight. We applied for a couple of things we put in. I must have forgot to put that one in. I apologize.
No worries. Yes, there's quite a number of fire department, but just for future reference, I really would appreciate that.
Definitely. I can go through the couple of items if you'd like, if it would help for
I mean,
clarification.
I'm sure that if you want to send follow-up after the meeting, it will
Okay.
come back in front of the full council. So I'm sure we will want to see the full backup materials for that. Thank you.
Yes, I will. No problem. Thank you.
Is
Sorry
it-
about that.
Is it a long list of what's driving the increase?
No, it's actually not. It really turned into like I said, a full replacement where it really consisted of them taking everything down and adding, obviously the new skylights, adding access to the roof. Right now, there's a rooftop unit, anything that has to do, they have to put ladders up, which is actually not by code, by OSHA code. So we're adding that. And it's also increasing the flashing and also having an overflow drain, which was never there, and which contribute to a lot of the water damage that we've had in the building as well. So these are all basically the bare necessities to bring it up to the code to modernize the roof to be, a minimum, as they put it, 30-year warranted roof.
Great, thank you. Councilmember David Hoovman.
Well, thank you, Chairman Burnett. First question I have is refresh me. What was the original appropriation for this project?
The original appropriation was for $155,000.
155. And so what was that ultimately based on that now drives this? What was there not an architectural study done at that point? Where did that estimate come from that now we're adding another 195,000 on top? That's what I'm missing from the materials here.
Okay, so when I came in, they had gotten that or asked for that appropriation. After reviewing it, we then had a meeting with SNEW regarding solar panels and trying to get an idea. And what came to fruition was, well, that 150 was basically taking down your overlayment and kind of adding to it and sort of resealing the roof. It was not a full replacement, if you will. That building has concrete planks for the roof on it, and it's never been brought down to the insulation. And what was found out afterwards, and as we were discussing it and then I had suggested to Chief Gatto to they had to obtain an architect, so we did that. And in doing that, we found multiple code issues, including there wasn't enough insulation on the roof. So I think it was about and they tested it, but it was about at 4, and it's bringing it up now to 6 to 8 and then same thing with the skylights. When I went up there, I started to realize there's lichen growing in between the two panels, and it just seemed to be. We sort of reassessed it and said, before we go and spend 150,000, are we wasting money on this? And then, especially after the solar panels, when we were talking about it, and we met with SNEW, we had a great meeting, and they were discussing, the possibility, and then with battery backup in the building right now, and it just seemed like a really smart idea to contract to get an architect to come in and reassess this. And with that, we found even more issues, and we just felt that it was way more appropriate for us to spend the full amount and fully replace this roof that was, it was obviously built in 1971, and I think there was, the records were a little bit shaky that I found, but it was about 2004. There was definitely work done, but it was not a full replacement by any means. Certainly not the skylights. These are old skylights, and they also didn't provide the fall protection. There weren't screens on these skylights, and there's old vents in the building that I discovered. There's 3 in the corner, and there's one in the old soil pipe that really needed to be they needed to be fixed, because especially the vents were on the corners, and there was no fall protection on those vents, and they're basically just open and just allowing all the heat and or air conditioning out of this building. So we're really sealing up this building.
I'm all for the project, but I'm curious why we're not having a discussion like this with Alan Lowe and coming through land use building management on this as well, since and you're talking about going to solar panels. So my question would be, are you looking at a PPA? Are you looking at a full purchase of panels? What's that? And why we're not having that discussion also with Alan here from a building management standpoint?
So we actually discussed it with Alan when I looked at this, and we said maybe we better talk to Alan Lowe about this. So we definitely did, and he advised. He said no, that's your great idea. He said you get an architect. It will be to code. It's just a roof. It's sort of it's a straightforward project that he was all for, and he gave us the green light on. So we definitely discussed it with Alan prior, when we realized like maybe let's not go forward with a sort of a patch job. Let's do this right.
Yeah, I understand that. That's fine. I just am curious why this discussion didn't originate in that committee as well. So that's a question of process here, which I'm not quite understanding, because we talk a lot about building issues. I know we've had stuff come through that committee for Broad River just recently. We had a lot of discussion there. So that's why I'm asking why we're doing this appropriation here through this committee, but we haven't seen anything about it in that committee as well. So.
Yeah, I understand. This is, I obviously came into position at the end of beginning of November last year, and took on these projects. And that's when we started assessing some of these, and Chief Gatto and I sort of reassessed some things, and with some of the knowledge I have with building, we kind of discussed it, and we did bring in Alan Lowe as well, and he sort of agreed that this was the most cost-effective method, route to take. That's why we did that. Same thing with Broad River, because I took on that project after it was, and in coming into that one, that's when all of a sudden I was doing the walkthrough, I realized there may be some code issues, and that's when I brought in Bill Ireland, and he completely agreed. That's how that came to fruition. That project was sort of in process as this was in process.
Okay, Council Member Norman Najelski-Eichner.
Yes, I think you and I just following up on that. And again, it's not that I am in any way objecting to this. I actually think this is exactly the right way to go. But I really want to push this a little farther and ask, is this still a worthwhile investment, in the context of the building itself? I mean, if we're spending what this now amounts to, $350,000, are we better off taking another year or two and looking at the entire building? And I really don't know. This is why I'm thinking, to David's point, this really might need to be a land use conversation. I mean, this is a big investment in the roof. I'm not liking what I'm hearing about the general condition of the building as a whole. Should we be asking an architect, is this really worth even this investment, or should we be looking at a building replacement, a couple of years down the line? So it's not a negative, and I'm super glad you asked. This is the kind of thing we should be doing. We shouldn't be making short-term decisions. We should be making long-term decisions. So it's not a negative at all. I'm thrilled you brought this to us. I just want some further information now, as to what I'm hearing from you says to me, gosh, this sounds like we're really having some larger potential problems here.
That's actually a great point. And with the architect, we did bring that architect in, and fortunately, I'm happy to say that building is very, very well built. It's actually it was an award-winning building, award-winning architect that built that building, and that's why I was explaining with the concrete planks that are done with that roof. The building itself is actually in great shape, and that's where the recommendation came in. These were just, the roof is just the sort of the membrane over that,
Sure.
and everything else is in good shape. And that's fortunately, and I say that fortunately, and everything else is in very good working order. And the building, doesn't have any other issues, but the roof really never had a full replacement throughout those times. And that was the assessment. And I'm speaking, probably for an architect as well, but that was the assessment. We walked through the building multiple times, and I agree with you. That's exactly why we held up and said, let's get an architect in here and let's talk to somebody. And we did discuss with Alan Lowe, and he's familiar with our building. So he didn't raise any red flags as to, is this not a good investment for us? That's why we moved for this.
Okay, well, that's actually, that's terrific to hear, and that's very comforting. And, Greg, maybe this is just something we might want to, see if Alan wants to comment for the council meeting, or, I don't know, but I'm flagging because I think these questions will probably come up and we would want to discuss them publicly. But again, I really appreciate, I just want to say thank you. This is exactly the kind of maintenance and investment in our buildings that I want to see, because it does save us so much down the line, right? I'm super glad we're keeping the building from developing serious leaks, and I'm really glad to hear the rest of the building's in good condition. So thank you very much. And I certainly will support this, this kind of investment, because it is for the long term, and that's what we need.
Yes, thank you.
Council Member Brian Meeks.
Yeah, thank you. Just to piggyback on Nora's comments, and I'm glad I hear Alan Lowe's name in the mix here. Are these decisions being made in the same context of, we're going to build a brand new school down there? There's a lot of industrial zoning changes. I mean, are we just throwing whatever you said, 300, 350 on a roof for a building that's going to be obsolete? Have we forecast what the needs are for the changes coming down there? And I haven't heard it yet, but I heard Alan's name. So hopefully this is not all being done in a vacuum. And, you get a building down there that'll last for the future needs of the neighborhood, not just keeping some water out of the firehouse right now. Thanks.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this resolution show by a raise of hand or verbally aye.
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 All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? So the resolution passed, and we'll move this item on to the full council for final approval, which will take place on Tuesday, October 25th.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item 9B, and the resolution reads as follows: requesting a special capital appropriation in the amount of $25,000 to increase the appropriation to the fund to fund the fire vehicle account as noted, to purchase 3 new vehicles. The $25,000 of bonds or notes of the city shall be issued in accordance with the provisions and terms set forth in the original bond resolutions that authorize the issuance of bonds or notes of the city for project as noted fire vehicles. So we have a motion on this item.
Motion.
Thank you, Council Member Diana Revolus. And Mark, back to you for this item as it relates to the 3 new vehicles.
Okay, so these are vehicles for our fire inspectors to replace a 2003 Explorer and 2 2007 Explorers. We normally try to do an 8-year plan, but as you can see, we haven't been able to keep up with that financially, but we're trying. What we did is some research. Our mechanic did some research, and we currently have Ford Escapes right now. And what the push has been is to get any carcinogens out of the cabs for all firefighters and for all of our inspectors. So we went for a Ford Mustang, and for the Ford Mavericks. And what they are is they're the smallest pickup trucks we can get. So they can keep all of their gear and any evidence or anything from fires that they can keep, and it separates it from the cab. That's what we went to do. After receiving the funding and trying to place that order, apparently Ford started saying we aren't fulfilling any orders any longer. This similar thing that happened to the police department when they tried to order their vehicles. So what we did because we do need these vehicles, where our mechanics are spending more time keeping some of these vehicles on the road than it's absolutely worth. Our mechanic looked into maybe having certain other certain vehicles like the Ranger or an Explorer, and they're just a little bit more, and we just don't have enough to replace these vehicles without it. And that's the issue is that we're having, and he is working tirelessly. And I was just met with him yesterday, as a matter of fact, to try to still get these orders in for the Mavericks, but he's having a lot of difficulty, and that's the issue that we came into.
And Mark, what was the original amount of the appropriation for the 3 vehicles?
He went to the original amount. I believe his original amount was for 75,000. I believe that's where he had it. He's gotten so many different quotes. He has really tried on this one.
I'm talking about the appropriation for the 3 vehicles. It was only had to be more than 75,000.
No, because that was the great thing about these Mavericks. They were for these 3 vehicles. They were very inexpensive vehicles. I don't have the exact figures. He has had so many different pricing on them from the state contract, which is the cheapest contract he can get.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's where he's been working with them. And even the state contract, they would one day tell him, "Oh, you have 3," and then say, "No, we canceled the order." He's been still calling them on a daily basis, really trying to get them. But we're at the point also where these vehicles they're just not lasting at this point. They're working on them tirelessly to keep them on the road for them.
Councilmember Nora Jelski-Eichner.
Thank you, Chair Burnett. And I apologize here. I have become a broken record, so I will keep this short. We need to make the conversion to electric. I understand the supply chain issues. I'm not expecting that we purchase electric tomorrow, but my position is that I am no longer voting for the purchase of vehicles until we have a functional plan in place for when we're going to be replacing to electric. So I certainly understand the need for replacement. I know that DPW has been doing a lot of investigation on electric. I certainly hope that you guys are as well. And, I look forward to hearing a plan. I'm hoping in the new budget, we can have a real comprehensive plan set forward for how the transition is going to happen and when. But until such time, I think that it's, sort of my line in the sand, because we need to get that on the agenda. And I do believe that moving to the electric, despite the increase in cost, given the fuel costs and the maintenance costs, will end up paying for itself, relatively rapidly. So anyway, I appreciate the work here. I know that it's challenging with old vehicles.
Yeah, we definitely looked into it. There was the pickup truck there is the Lightning, and it's about, I think it was over 3 times as much. And we looked into even at Central or Station 2 and headquarters where they park on what it would cost to have, essentially 10 charging stations down there. So our mechanic has been researching it. We are looking into it. Absolutely.
Terrific. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember David Hoofman.
Thank you, Chairman Burnett. I guess I'm going to ask the same question. Why didn't this come through public safety, general government first? I'm confused why is it just because it's an increase? Maybe Henry, you can explain that to me. And what was this in the last year's capital budget? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, we were approved for this year's budget. We were approved for it. And then when
it was the
for the current budget, yes. And when he went
spring.
to go, yes, when he went to go place the order, they said no.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious about the process, Chairman. That's all. I'm not understanding where this comes, where the layers are, and what committee should be doing this. So thanks.
We can research that further, but I don't know if Mr. Dackwitz has any comment on that, but I'm assessing that because it is a special capital appropriations, though that request comes through the Finance and Claims Committee versus going through the other committees that you mentioned.
Yeah, on this item, I kind of see it. On the previous item, my issue is we're talking about a building, a large change to a building issue. And that was why I brought it up there. The question then becomes is, does this need to originate in the committee that deals with that first and then move here? I'm a little confused on the process because I think we do it a couple different ways and I'm not 100% certain which is the way we're supposed to be doing it. So we need to look into that. Thank you.
I think my perspective was these are items that were on the annual capital budget, which goes through rigorous review by all the committees. And now there's a change. There's a change either in pricing or in the case of the roof, there was a change in scope. You raised very good questions looking at the big picture, which says, first of all, you're more than doubling the cost of what we talked about for the roof. And then secondly, the perspective of how about the whole structure? What's the perspective? Brian's perspective on there are changing needs in the community, and these are 30-year, 40-year investments. So are we looking to accommodate today? Do we have a perspective for the future? So I think it's a little bit of a gray area, but that's why I guess it was scheduled for this committee.
Well, I see this particular item, the item with the vehicles. I understand supply chain issues right now have driven a number of votes that we've made in a number of committees. And that's an understandable thing that we have changes. But the roof, I go back to, we're talking about a completely, totally different project now. And that's why I'm concerned about where it originated at this point. So I voiced my concern, and we'll take it up and figure out what the process should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Member Diana Reveles.
Hello. I just have a quick ask. You actually may not even have an answer for this, but it's something that's been kind of honing over me with the talk of electric converting to electric, right? Especially with the cars. I just wonder in the totalities, but here in particularly, if you do the research on electric, do we ever research the next most expensive thing, which also causes environmental issues, which is how much do we spend on tires? And then next, what is the working and what is the need or effect to our power grid, and what happens if that went down? These may not have answers, but if you're researching it, can those questions be added to that research, if that makes sense? Like, it doesn't have to be answered now, just if that's an idea for the future, because I understand the roof, I get it, and we have buildings that were built quite well. So I get that. I just looking at the future on, sorry with the baby in the background, but I'm just looking at the future of going electric throughout, if that makes sense.
I'm assuming you're directing that question to Assistant Chief Conti in any additional research he's planning to do on electric vehicles. Is that
right?
correct?
If he does, because of the questions that were asked, I'm just, like I said, there's probably not even an answer, but could it be added to that question that Councilwoman Nadjelsi Eichner was speaking, or her comment she was addressing? This would just be a future see and how much this would cost and what it would do.
Yeah, we have definitely started looking at, like I was saying before, about how many charging stations are we going to need? How long is it going to be? When's the turnover? That's where that solar panel idea came in with battery backups that could still charge the vehicles. And these are the things that we are researching very, very carefully during this process.
I appreciate that. And if it was, sorry for the ask, but those are just two things in particularly that in that research. Tires, and what actual cost is it to an electric grid to add all these type of charging units? You see what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments on this item? I see none, so I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the resolution as read, show by a raise of hand or verbal aye.
Aye.
All those opposed have the same right. We have one, Councilmember Nora Najelski-Eichner. Any abstentions? None? Okay, so the motion is passed and we will move this item to the full council for final approval at the Tuesday, October 25th council meeting.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item 10A, which reads as follows: authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter an agreement with Audit Systems LLC, the incident I'm assuming that's supposed to be incident command software as
Yes.
opposed to commend.
Yes.
We'll make that correction. Incident command software for fire trucks, amount not to exceed $31,130 annually. Capital budget account project noted, fire truck technology upgrade. Do we have a motion on this item? Councilmember Nora Najelski-Eichner, thank you. And I believe Mark and Joyce Liu, our IT director, will speak on this item.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So IT and fire department, we start working together on the fire department technology upgrade since last year. So the goal is to modernize technology for our fire department. So fire department finished the software upgrade from their 15 years old firehouse software to the ESO this summer. And now we are ready to extend the technology upgrade for the 12 fire trucks. So the funding, actually for the next two items, the funding for this two agenda item is from IT's capital budget, approved for the current fiscal year. So we are asking the approval to use this approved capital fund on the purchase of Adachi incident command software for our fire truck and all the hardware that required to install on these fire trucks. So I'm here to join with Assistant Fire Chief Mark and IT Assistant Admin for Public Safety, Gabe Asari, for any question you might have for this project.
Yes, Councilmember David Hoover.
Just a question. What is the life on this software? I mean, is this a one-time purchase? Do we have additional costs down the road? What's the
software right now, the software is all cloud-based subscription. So we are looking at this year will be this amount, but we are going to put in operating budget for the coming year.
And it'll be in the operating budget at the same amount each year? Do we have a number of years contract on this, or?
We haven't have the contract yet, so it could be negotiated. But the amount we have here is just for yearly subscription contract.
Yearly subscription price on this. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And there are just to note, there are a few things. The integrated service are a one-time cost. That was the $2,500. And we also have a training on site, which was the $3,600, 2 days of full training. And that's obviously not an annual cost. So it will, that's where we're at right now.
Right. So the subscription cost is lowered by those amounts.
Yes, I would exactly.
But this is a yearly contract and
Yes.
it's going to end up in the operating budget now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on this incident command software? Okay, hearing seeing none. All those in favor of this authorization show by a raise of hand or verbal aye.
Aye.
All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? The authorization is approved and we'll bring this forward to the full council for approval at the Tuesday, October 25th meeting. moving on to item B of 10B, which reads as follows: authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, for one-time purchase of tough books, modems, and assorted hardwares with Telrepco, NASPO, National Association of State Procurement Officers, State of Connecticut contract number as noted, for fire truck technology upgrade with amount not to exceed $90,925. Capital project account as noted, fire truck technology upgrade. And I believe Mark and Joyce, you're covering this item also. Well, I'm sorry, do we have a motion on this item?
Motion.
Councilmember Diana Revelous, thank you. Joyce and Mark, now to you.
Okay, yeah, so those hardwares are the, the Toughbook plus all the docking station, printer, and on the second page will be the modem that need to be installed in order to manage the instance on the fire truck. So all this hardware is we did the procurement through a state contractor. So you can see we attach the state's contract number in there. And so it's supposed to have the lowest rate. They also, this same vendor also help us to do the procurement on all the police technology, all the hardware in the police cars. Yeah. So I think Gabe Asari, he is the one helping out the IT system admin. He is the one helping out the procurement on this on those hardware. So maybe so Gabe, you want to chip in this?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, so obviously this is equipment that is going to be needed in complement with Adashi's software. So we've pretty much worked with Telrepco, and also we worked with Patrick Keogh of the mechanics division in the Norwalk Fire Department. We just pretty much went through every vehicle to kind of figure out what was really needed regarding the parts. And obviously we have a quote for 12 tough books, various warranties, keyboards, docking stations, as I just mentioned. We also have different plates, different types of other accessories that each vehicle will be accepting in regards to these the hardware that's needed. We also have a quote for modems that's needed as well, because not only do the firefighters have to keep in touch with Adashi software, make sure that's connected with the cloud, it also has to talk with our next gen system and make sure that our dispatchers can see them and figure out where they are GPS wise within the city as well. So the modems are going to be essential for that. And that's mainly it. We're working as well with Sanjay Kasala as well from Adashi Systems, just kind of making sure that these are tailor-made to last and are durable for the firefighters here as well.
Thank you for that update. Just a side question, what hardware are we currently using, and what are we going to do with that hardware when we replace it with this new hardware?
So I can speak to that. I gave you, if you want, I can speak to that. We're currently using iPads right now. The iPads are going to be repurposed because we have just switched to the ESO asset management and records management software. And they're actually going to be, well, some of the iPads right now are going, the inspectors are actually using them for their inspections. And then the other iPads are going to be repurposed within the firehouses where we can run all of our inventory checks. We can run with the new software. We can run all of our asset management software basically through that. And our mechanics are going to be able to run it where all of our equipment now, we have QR codes on them. So they'll be able to basically, locate which, and enter which piece of equipment it is, and for all of our maintenance records and everything. So they will be used, and we be pretty much right in the stations again, where we're going to keep on using them.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments related to this hardware request? Okay, hearing, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving this authorization, show by raise of hand or verbal aye.
Aye.
All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? The authorization is passed, and again, we will bring it to the full council on October 25th for final approval.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 11. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to submit an application to the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security Grant for the Emergency Management Performance Grant, which is approximately $75,000. Do we have a motion on this item?
Motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Diana Revolus. And we have with us the captain of the Hazmat, who's the Hazmat coordinator. I'm gonna mess up your name, but you can correct me. Fontanado, did I get it right? Okay, great, thank you. To give us the background and address any questions on this grant request.
Yeah, so we, the grant goes towards the Fairfield County Hazmat team. For anyone who's unfamiliar with that, we have a hazmat team that's comprised of different fire departments within the Fairfield County, and each department participates by providing trained members and funding to operate regionally instead of operating individually, like Norwalk having its own team or Stanford having its own team. It's a much better use of resources because as far as hazmat's concerned, we don't have a high volume of these calls, but when we do get these calls, they're major incidents. So the grant is just it's a Homeland Security grant that it's required to have somebody, run the account to be the fiduciary for it. The city of Norwalk, I think we've been doing it for the past 10 years. And it's going well. And we're just looking to, approve it. The amount has increased from 65,000 last year to 75,000 this year. And I have it, if you would like to see, I have a breakdown of the, the budgets we're putting together for that and where the money will be used. I could share the screen here. Let's see. I think it's this one. Right, is that? I apologize because this is, here we go. You guys see that?
We're not seeing it on the screen.
Okay, you know what? Let me go back. All right. Why is it not working?
If it's not a long list, you can just verbally share.
Yeah, I'll do it. That's easier. Let's do that. That makes sense. So the breakdown for the 75,000, we are going to allocate 14,500 to planning, which will include contracted labor, catalog of facilities, processes, products, the VOC software, which is the software we use just for inventory and pre-planning incidents. We're going to allocate 45,500 to new equipment. And some of the things that will include is a AP4C meter package, which is basically something we use for weapons of mass destruction, terrorist events, multi-use sensors and calibration. If anybody's been to the events recently in Norwalk, you would notice that, we have these meters set up all around the perimeter, and it's just constantly monitoring the air. It monitors for radiation, so on and so forth. Anything that's, dangerous that we want to know right away if somebody's trying to, cause harm to civilians. We're going to start using iPads for inventory, and we're looking to get a new portable generator. And the last part of that is going to be 15,000 allocated towards training, 5,000 of which is going to go towards VOC training, 5,000 towards incident management, and 5,000 towards advanced metering.
Great, thank you for that update. Do we have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Nora Najelski-Eichner.
Thank you. So first, I just want to applaud you and your team for this. Regionalization is a good thing. Anything that reduces costs by finding efficiencies, particularly as you note in these kind of things where, these are low volume, but high risk occurrences. So I fully support this. I would love to see more of these kind of regional initiatives. I did just have, though, a question, just as a practical matter, since we are administering the grant. A, do we get any percentage for administration? And B, when you're doing equipment purchases and things, are we housing them? How's the inventory maintained sort of across the 14,000? Do we have long-term sort of ownership worth, say, this grant to expire? I just wanted to understand a little bit about how the this sort of a joint agreement kind of works out in practice.
Okay, so one of the greatest benefits of us hosting the grant and the two main vehicles that we use for Fairfield County Hazmat, we have one in Westport and one in Norwalk. The one in Norwalk is housed at apparatus maintenance. It's come in handy on multiple occasions because we're able to have people that are currently working on duty that can stop by apparatus maintenance and grab additional equipment that's hazmat team equipment that is housed in Norwalk, which makes it very readily available for us. And it's come in handy on multiple occasions. It also, I'm involved with the hazmat team more than just, I run the training for the hazmat team and I get involved in, some of the purchasing and whatnot. I've spent a lot of time kind of training myself on meters and just educating myself so that I could be more of an asset to the team. And it gives me a lot of decision making in the meters we're buying. And for example, the area array system that I was discussing earlier, we use that at the 2 high school graduations this year, the Sono Arts Festival, the NICE Festival, the 4th of July fireworks, and most recently the Oyster Festival. And we hire one person to work the festival to monitor. It's actually a really good system. There are meters that we set up around the perimeter and they all send the information back to a laptop. So if I'm stationed at that laptop, I could at any given moment look at the individual meters and I could find out exactly what the oxygen levels are, if there's any flammables, if there's any radiation increase. They also monitor the weather as far as temperature, humidity, wind, wind speed and direction. They're very useful. It's just being a step ahead. Unfortunately, we all know there's bad people in this world and we got to stay ahead of it. We don't, it's been very good. I work with Terry Blake a lot on this through PD. And I think we're getting better and better with that. And honestly, we have food trucks and stuff at these events. They use propane for a lot of their cooking. We can have a propane leak and then, that meter's going to pick up on it right away and let us know. And then we'll send somebody over to that area and, kind of narrow it down even further and mitigate any issues.
Great. Well, thank you. So I really appreciate this. Is helpful. I mean, it does sound like it's a real asset for the city that we get to host this in addition to participate. So thank you. I appreciate the work that goes into making that happen. And like I said, this collaboration is certainly the kind of model we want to encourage. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, hearing, seeing none, all those in favor show by the sign of raising your hand or verbal aye.
Aye.
All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? Brian, you raise your hand.
I'm sorry, just before we adjourn, I'm sorry if this is out of order. I'm just curious, when does the budget calendar come out?
Hold on one second, Brian. So I want to finish this motion.
Oh, you didn't finish.
Yes, so was there any abstentions? I didn't see any. So this item is approved and we'll move it to the full council for final approval on Tuesday, October 25th. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
you.
Now, Brian, your question?
Chairman Burnett, sorry, I was premature there. I was just curious. I think we're a little early, but when does the budget calendar get announced?
We're,
Henry, this, our Chief Financial Officer can address that.
thank you, Brian.
I figured.
We are working now on putting together the pro forma packages, which go out to every department. That's on the operating budget. At the same time, and I expect to send that out hopefully the third week of October, third or fourth week of October. At the same time, we're working on calendars for both the operating and the capital budgets. And I would hope to circulate that at the same time.
Thank you, sir. I knew it was too close.
Well, we could start meeting if you feel it would be productive. We keep stretching the budget calendar. We're now up to 7 months. We have 5 more to go.
We're very good at budgeting.
Well, we're going to keep doing it until we get it right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, motion to,
adjourn.
thank you. All those, Council Member Diana Revolus makes the motion. All those in favor? Or verbal aye. We adjourn. Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
Rest of your evening.
Thank you,
Take
guys.
care.
See you next month.
Thank you. Have a good evening.